Welcome to the Date Forever podcast. Keep your relationship fueled up with strategies discovered by couples and experts. Because at Fuel Collective, we believe better relationships will equal a better world. You are about to discover specific insights and tools that cost little or nothing to implement to help you date forever. And now, here are your hosts, a couple who always have a half-packed suitcase and a date night in the calendar, Sammy and Nathan Yeager.
Welcome to a brand new week of Date Forever. In this week's episode, we're chatting about hypnotherapy and how you can use it to change your thoughts and behaviours, identifying unhealthy behavioural patterns and working to change them, and how taking action, trusting yourself, helps to improve self-esteem. But before we get into that, Sammy, what's been fueling you up this week?
Ooh, Nath, I have talked about this on the show that I took a pretty epic surfboard stack.
Yeah, you did.
It's probably like 7 or 8 weeks ago now.
Yeah, a couple of months.
Yeah, and I finally started to come good, like pretty good, like back over 80%.
Yeah.
And then late last week, I had Bay out, taking the dog for a walk. We'd been out for like almost an hour, and we were at the park, and there was this chick doing laps around the oval, and she just looked so graceful.
Running.
Yeah, running. She looked so graceful and elegant, and she just looked like she was in her zone, living life. And I was super jealous, and I was envious of her because I used to do that.
Yeah.
And that used to be my happy place.
But as a bit of background, you probably haven't run for 4 years probably?
Yeah, I reckon probably closer to 5 years. Like consistently, I haven't run. Yeah. My last amazing run was Waterside in Brisbane. And I was traveling for work, and it was just glorious. Amazing run. I still I can feel it. I'm like in my body. But my hips aren't good.
Had injuries.
And some tears and some things, and I've had injections and all the things. But yeah, I've been working consistently with a chiropractor for the last year, and I've been feeling pretty good about the hips. So I was kind of self-talking as I was watching this girl, and I was like, well, why can't that be me? What belief have I got that I can't run? So then I started thinking like, okay, well, maybe it is time to start running again. And maybe tomorrow I'll do that. Maybe tomorrow I'll get myself up early and try and go for a run. And then I was like, what the hell?
Why tomorrow?
Why tomorrow? You are in the park with everything that you need. You're wearing your trainers and your sports bra.
And your activewear.
Like, why tomorrow? So I ran home from the park.
Yeah, amazing. How'd it feel?
Yeah, well, the dog didn't want to run. So he was a bit...
A 50-minute walk may have added to that.
Yeah, but it was a bit... Like, it wasn't a big run. It was like less than a kilometre, probably like almost a kilometre. But a really big step for me, like in head game and...
Yeah, massive. And just changing that thought in your head that you can't run.
Yeah. I've had on my vision board and like on my big goals, like always. I don't even know when it went on there, but I would really love to run the Disney Marathon.
Yeah.
For anyone who's a regular of the show or knows me, I have been to all of the Magic Kingdoms around the world. But I would really love to, if I'm going to do a marathon or a half marathon, maybe half marathon.
Maybe
half. Yeah.
You can still be part of the Disney Marathon by doing a half
marathon.
Yep.
I think I would be very stoked with myself if I did that. So if I want to achieve that goal, I'm going to have to start by running again.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've pulled up okay. I definitely think the hips could do with some more focus and strength.
Yep.
But yeah.
But maybe this is the motivation you need to be able to do that too. Like,
yeah.
If you've realized you can actually run, and because I know it has been challenging for you to do some of those hip exercises when you couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. So maybe this is the extra motivation that you need just to be able to push through some of those hip exercises, get the strength back in them so that you can get running again.
Yeah. So that was my fuel up. My fuel up was a very tiny, less than 1 kilometer run, but it was a big step for me, and I felt it made me feel really good about myself and running for me, people like talk about like runners, gross runners are like, running's amazing and it's so therapeutic, and it takes a while to get to that stage. Like I reckon it takes months of consistent running before running becomes a euphoric
and enjoyable
exercise. But I've been there. I've been at that fitness level and at that stage where running is like meditative, beautiful experience, and I would love to be back there.
Yeah.
So
you can do it.
Yeah, so I made a step towards that, or I made a step back towards that this past week.
Yeah, amazing.
What about you, Nath? What fueled you up this past week?
So just recently stepped into a new role at work, and so I've probably had a week and a half now where I've actually been able to jump into this new role, lead a new team, and yeah, it felt really good to lead the team that I've got, understand the role that I'm in a bit better, and actually kind of take the reins.
Yeah, and because you're working from home, I've seen like little snippets of this.
I've seen the hustle, but yeah, I think I've just had to take a lot more accountability in meetings and things like that. But yeah, it's been good. It's felt like I've actually got some autonomy over the team as well, and I've got some control to be able to make some change, which feels really nice too. And I think it is like when you step into a new role, it's always challenging and a bit daunting and things like that. But I think it does bring a fresh perspective to the whole team too. And so I am trying to breathe some new life into the team and bring some new perspective and bring some new fuel and energy to spark some extra passion back into the team.
What's your intention, or what's the energy that you're bringing to this team? What are you going in with?
I think there's been a little bit of like scarcity previously, just with work coming in and things like that. It has been challenging like the last 12 months. Like I've kind of been observing the team from the outside, whereas I kind of really want to change that focus. And I think with the work that we've got on at the moment, it is really, really promising and the prospects are really great. So I just want to bring some of that abundance energy into the team, and that there is plenty of work to go around and plenty of exciting work too.
And that's very reflective of everything in life, isn't it?
Yeah.
There is enough.
Yeah, there is enough. And I think a lot of it is attitude. If you come into it with an attitude of abundance, then I think more will come.
Yeah, I love that. Hey, and congratulations on the new role.
Oh, thanks. Pretty exciting. And now here's this week's guest.
Today we're welcoming Sandra Moscardo. Sandra is a clinical hypnotherapist, a strategic psychotherapist, and an NLP practitioner. She focuses on helping people who are trapped in a cycle of unhealthy relationships, unfulfilling jobs, and limiting self-beliefs, who are unable to find the confidence to change. Using strategic psychotherapy, she will educate you on your unconscious negative thought patterns and the labels you have given yourself. Sandra used to be one of them, and she knows the only way to change is to take action. Action builds confidence and trust in yourself. She used to be a spectator of her life until she realized that she needed to break the unhealthy patterns so that she could become the actor of her own life. She learned the tools to do so, changed her life, and now she wants to share it with as many people as possible because we can change. She has a very modern way of doing hypnotherapy, and it works. Welcome to the show, Sandra.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for having me.
So, Sandra, how did you get into hypnotherapy?
Basically, I got into hypnotherapy because I did it myself. After years of low self-worth, years of struggles, and as I said in my bio, like I was literally the spectator of my life. I was going from unhealthy relationship to unhealthy relationship to unhealthy relationship. And I was constantly doing the same pattern over and over again. Because even though I did know why I was doing this, I didn't know how to change. So I met this beautiful lady one day when I went back to France, and I started a therapy with her. I've never had hypnotherapy before, and I could see the changes straight away. And the changes were so subtle that it was actually beautiful to feel and be empowered, because I basically started to do things differently because I was thinking differently. And because every action we do is based on a thought. So whatever we think, we believe, we have a behavior attached to it, and then it creates an action. So slowly my life started to change because I was acting differently in my life. And so the thing with me is I've always wanted to work with people. When I was young, I wanted to be a psychologist. As I grew older, I was like, when people ask you, what's your hobby? What do you like doing? I couldn't keep saying, I love people. So that's what I want to do. So I just put that on the side, and I worked in sales, where I was actually an account manager, helping my clients. They were my babies. I just didn't like the word I was working in. I was working in IT for 10, 15 years until I finally had this calling halfway through my therapy. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to help people the same way I'm helping myself. And then I got so lucky. I found this amazing school in Australia, and I studied at the Institute of Applied Psychology in Sydney. And I went from there, quit my job, big challenge, quit my job and studied full time.
Wow.
To become a hypnotherapist.
So tell us a little bit about some of those unhealthy relationships. What was going on for you before you discovered this tool to change things?
I was mainly, and I realized that recently, actually, by studying more for my clients, I had a very low impulse control. So I was looking for people to make me feel good. So it was all about, I didn't know who I was. So I was looking for someone to make me feel good. And by looking for someone to make you feel good, I was going from wrong choice to wrong choice to wrong choice, because I was not looking at their values. I was not looking at the external events. Who are they? What are their beliefs? How are they looking at the world? And who am I? I didn't even know who I was. So I was constantly looking for this feeling good. So I went from finding a narcissist to, I had good people, but I was just not in love. And I was so scared of being alone that I would straight away go back to, oh, I'm alone, I'm scared, I don't know what to do with myself. Someone wants me, life is great. Yeah, you want? Oh, okay, let's go, Until after a year, I'm like, I lost another year. I don't want to be with this person. So I kept going and going and going until I did the therapy, and I was like, I'm done.
No more.
I want to be on my own. No more. I'm going to choose my partner, and I'm going to choose him wisely. And I'm going to look for who he is. What do I like about this person? How is he with his friends? How is he with the waiter? How does he talk to people? What are his values? How is he with his family? What does he like? Where does he want to go? Instead of, how do I feel? Because when you feel something, you look internally. When you choose a partner for life, you have to look externally. That's very important.
Yeah. So you mentioned that the shift after your therapy was only really subtle, but it kind of changed everything. So what was that shift? What did you kind of notice that was different?
That's a good question. I started to action things. I started to trust myself. And by trusting myself, how did that happen? And that's why I'm very focused with low self-esteem and relationship in the work I do, because when you have a low self-esteem, which I had, you don't trust yourself being able to do things. So you avoid. And the more you avoid, the less you trust yourself. And by actioning on things in life, whatever it is, you start to trust yourself because you have an outcome. It's as simple as it is, instead of being like, oh yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for a run. Oh, I'm tired. I'm not going to do it tomorrow. And you avoid. But then you don't trust yourself being able to go for this run. So I started my life with whatever I say I'm going to do, no matter what, motivated or not motivated, I'm doing it. And as I started doing things, my life unfolded and I trusted myself. So my reality changed. I trust myself. I know who I am. I can do things. So I'm going to look for people who are similar to me, because we always look for people with similarities in our lives. We are attracted by people with similarities. And actually in relationship, what's very important is learning to know how you accept the differences of people who are similar to you. Does it make sense?
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so you mentioned that one of the unhealthy relationships that you had was with a narcissist. Tell us a little bit about that.
Just a very bad experience, to be honest. The thing is, in a relationship, what I learned as well, it's 50-50, okay? So I could say, he used me. He did that, but I let myself being used to. I was a prey for him. He played with me because I didn't know who I was. So I was waiting for him to make me feel something. And they can smell these people. They can smell people with low self-esteem because they can make them feel good. And then they start playing and manipulating them. So he made me feel amazing for 2 months. And then he started to play with me. And I was like, I got lost in this relationship. It was a disaster. Now I'm over it, but it took a while for me to get over this trauma. It's a big trauma that happened in my life. And now I came back from it so much stronger. What's very interesting is I wouldn't even attract these people anymore today. They wouldn't even look at me. I don't see them. I don't know where they are.
Yeah. I think that's interesting, isn't it? Because people do say things like that. They're like, oh, I always seem to end up with the X, Y, Z, A, B, C label. And I think when you zoom out of that and you go, well, the only constant in that pattern is you.
Exactly. And there's something very interesting that we do in NLP. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. It's how we talk to ourselves and what pattern we created and we run in autopilot. Everything is done at an unconscious level. In NLP, I just love this one. It's called the meta model. And so all of us in our lives, what we do, we generalize, we delete, and we distort reality. Because that's our way to feel safe in the world. So when people, and some of my clients, choose to come and see me because they know we're going to have a good relationship conversation. And they're like, I always attract bad guys. It's the universe. Except when it's not.
Except when it's you in the universe.
Because you generalize, like all men are like this, except when they're not. You can't put all men in the same basket.
Or women, or people.
Or people, yeah, exactly. Or Australian, or French, French people are like this. Well, no, except when they're not, and that's because we don't know, and we don't like not knowing. That's what we call confirmation bias. So we generalize to be right. Or all women are the same. And I attract bad guys. You're looking for bad guys. Because your reality, if in your head, all men are bad, how you talk to yourself, first of all, you're going to look for bad guys because you believe all men are bad.
And I think to put this in context of a relationship, that confirmation bias, if you have a belief about either yourself or your partner, like they're a really crap communicator or they always do X, Y, Z behavior, they never help out at home, they never XYZ, whatever the gripe might be, I think we then look for things that confirm the way that we think or feel about our partner.
100%. What you focus on, you amplify.
And you find more evidence to back up your theory and then it just
100%.
reaffirms it consistently.
Yeah, because you will delete, you will distort to make you feel right, to be right. So you will delete some information.
So how do we break a pattern like that if we found ourselves in a negative pattern of thinking or feeling a certain way towards our partner or towards our person? How do we snap that? How do we break that pattern?
Well, there's different ways. First of all, for me, you have to understand how you do this pattern. Because you can be, I am the way I am because I had an abusive mother. But it's not going to change your past. It's not going to, you can't change your past, by understanding how you do the pattern. First of all, you can dissociate yourself from the problem. You are not the problem. This is not you. It's just a pattern you're running, something you've been running in the background unconsciously for so many years because that's how you felt safe in the world. You created your own reality to be safe. So for that, first of all, for me, it's important to understand how you do the problem. And there's different things you do to do a problem. And that's what I educate with my client. That's how I work with my client. I psychoeducate them a lot. And that's the psychotherapy part of it.
That was going to be my next question, is tell us about the problems that your clients are coming to see you for. What are the things that are most common that people are coming to see you to work through?
It's very interesting. Mostly people are coming for the roots of the problems are based on anxiety and relationship with yourself first. And from there, you've got the relationship with people, partner, friends. You've got relationship with food. You've got relationship with fears when people have phobias. The root of the problem is anxiety, mostly. Even depression, when people come for depression, you have to be depressed, you have to run. And I say run because it's a verb, it's a doing. You do anxiety, it's not a noun. So you run anxiety for so many years that then you end up doing depression. Anxiety is a big part. And you've got social anxiety is a big one as well. So I've got mainly relationships, anxiety, big one. Social anxiety. Phobias is an interesting one.
I'll share one of mine. So I don't know where it's come from. And I'm sure if we did a session together, you'd be able to tell me where it came from. But I am very past scared, phobic of snakes. Even as I'm saying snakes, my heart rate's going up.
Okay.
I really don't like them.
Yeah.
I'm very, very scared of them. And it's not a problem in my day-to-day life too much.
Yeah.
Occasionally, if something comes up on social media or Facebook where I've scrolled through and then all of a sudden there's a snake in my feed, not great, but it really doesn't disrupt my everyday life. But when Nathan and I have been traveling together to countries where I just feel like there's higher risk, or
we went to Sri Lanka,
we've seen them,
and
and in Sri Lanka, there would, I think, more than 2 occasions where I had
there was definitely quite a few
meltdowns, because if anyone has been to Sri Lanka or familiar with Sri Lanka, there's a lot of snake charmers.
Yes,
and they are they're like buskers, the same you would see
true.
with someone with a guitar. And I was not dealing well with this at all. And for me, I think what it is that I just feel like I can't get away from them. They can move incredibly fast. They can climb. They can jump. How can they jump? They have no legs. Why can they jump? That's not right. They can swim. They can get under things.
And they would get to you. And they would
get to me.
They would know it is you scared. So they would literally target you.
Oh, yeah. That is how I think. That is
Yes.
how I feel.
Yeah. I know.
I'm my heart rate, and I'm sweating as well. But yeah, this is at some point, this is going to be a problem that I need to go deep inside myself and work through, because I do believe, I know that there's people who have broken through phobias.
Yeah.
And are on the other side. So I do believe that is possible.
Oh, that is 100%.
I do believe that that's possible for me.
100%.
But I haven't yet done the work.
Okay. Well, you know where to find me. I can definitely help you with the snake phobia. That would be actually what we would do in this case. I would break a pattern pretty quickly. I would break your pattern of the fear. I would understand how you do the fear, because there's always a how. It starts somewhere and it ends somewhere. And with NLP technique, I would quickly break the pattern. However, because it's linked to the way you do anxiety, and I would explain that in the session, how you do anxiety with this specific problem, we would treat in hypnosis the anxiety piece. So we just break the pattern with NLP. This is out of the way. And what's so interesting is you can break patterns so quickly in, honestly, less than 5 minutes. You would be like, I've got nothing attached to it. There's no emotion anymore. But then to be sure it's not coming back, we would deal with the way you do anxiety. We would have to dissociate the anxiety to the fear.
So tell us a little bit more. A lot of people won't have experienced hypnosis, and like you mentioned yourself, you'd never come across this before until you met this lady. So tell us a little bit about what is hypnotherapy? What does it do? How does it work? What are the benefits?
Okay. So hypnosis is the best vehicle to deliver a message. Hypnosis itself is not a therapy. The strategic psychotherapy I do beforehand, the how we do a problem, that's the therapy. Hypnotherapy is the best way to deliver a message without the person thinking with their logical brain. So the unconscious brain is at the back. It's the emotional brain. That's how we run all the patterns, because how we create a behavior is created from different things like social, education, culture, family, friends. And we just create patterns and we run them at an emotional level. We are emotional creatures. We live to feel. We love feeling good. And that's what we live for. That's how marketing is so good. They make us feel good. But we think with our logical brain. So when I say, sometimes I want to say things to my clients and I have to bite my tongue and I'm like, just don't say anything. Wait until they are in trance. So what is trance? Trance is a focused or an absorbed attention. When you go for a run, for example, or when you read a book or watch a movie and you get very emotional or very absorbed, you are in trance. It's a different state. You're more focused on one single point of contact. So if you are focused on my voice and only my voice, you go into this state of focused attention. I can deliver a message that's going to go straight to your emotional brain. And that's how we can change things. So I'm going to bring the resources you have within you with things that you've done in your life. You've done so many beautiful things, and you have a lot of strengths, and I'm going to bring them in the problem space and use the resources you have in the problem space. And I'm just going to create different possibilities. And then you pick what you want. You pick the message you want.
Possibility where I'm not scared of snakes anymore. What if that was possible?
It is. It is possible, definitely.
Hey, so we've heard you talk a little bit about our beliefs and the way that we see the world and how that impacts how we choose a partner. What happens when we've got a clash of beliefs or the way that we see the world with that person?
As cliche as it sounds, I would say it's very important to communicate. But by communication, I mean different things. First, listen to what the person says, because we all coming from a different background, and your reality is not my reality, is not your reality. If we look at the same thing, we're not going to have the same reality. And when your partner is saying something, listen to what he says, and listen to what he says or what she says for what he says or what she says. And I think it's important to ask a question as well. If you're not sure, what do you mean by that? I don't understand. Because the way I take it this way. And your partner at that point might be, no, that's not what I meant. I meant that way. And you're like, okay. The way you said it, for example, even, I don't know if you guys have the same experience sometimes, but my partner is going to say something and I'm like, yeah, but you just said this. And we don't fight, but sometimes you have little disagreement because we're just human. And he's like, I didn't say this word. I'm like, he goes, what did I say? I'm like, oh no, that's true. You didn't say this word exactly. But the way I interpreted it,
you added that word.
I had that word, but it's not what he meant. So it changes the whole context of the thing. Or like if he says to me, you always do this. I'm like, always, really? And he's with a hypnotherapist. I'm like, always, please. He's like, no, okay, just now. Thank you. It makes the problem straight away from big to very small.
That's one of the best pieces of advice I think we've ever heard around having healthy and constructive conflict, is to delete the words always and never. Because as soon as you use one of those words, it puts the other person on the defensive to protect and demonstrate, and they can immediately demonstrate that they don't always or they don't never, because they can latch onto that one time or two times where they did or didn't do the thing. So I really like that you've talked about that, because it's such a simple thing to try and monitor your use of those words.
Definitely. One thing as well for me that is very important in relationship is acknowledge the other. Acknowledge what the other person does for you. I think in case of a disagreement, no, but I think acknowledgement is very important. Okay, I acknowledge what you're saying, and thank you for sharing. You didn't have to. Thank you. Right. And just sometimes just swallow your ego.
Not always easy to do.
I think saying thank you is one of those things too that it is really challenging, but it also acknowledges the other person for being there and for actually bringing something up.
So important, because that's the thing. It's almost like even in life in general, some people take things for granted. Even in a relationship, I think it's so important not to take things for granted. The person doesn't have to do the dishes or do the laundry. No one has to. But when you do, it's actually nice that your partner says, thank you for making the bed. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for the dishes. It's just one word, but you acknowledge what the person does. I think it's so important. You do that with your friends.
Hey, Sandra, you mentioned, obviously, we're on a podcast talking about relationships. And so far, we're talking about that element of date yourself and dating yourself forever and getting to know yourself on this really intimate level and continuing to do that forever. But you mentioned a partner, so we would love to know a little bit about your relationship.
Yeah, I'm in love with my partner.
Yeah. We love love.
Oh, we love love. Love is work. Love is learning. Love is growing. Love is constantly changing and evolving. And so, so my partner is, we actually used to work together. And I always loved the person he is, actually. Like, he's probably even though I was a bit lost with myself, but I always loved this guy because of who he is, his values, his aura, his beautiful energy around people. And he was the same with me. And long story short, we got together about over a year ago. And we are very, very proud of the way we do our relationship because we know how much work, we know how easy it is when you actually work for it. We talk a lot. We talk about our relationship a lot. How do we do this well? What do we do to make this work? Like, we know that we say thank you to each other all the time. And the always and never are not in our, or if it is, the other one straight away like, really? Always? Please. And the other one is like, okay, fair enough, not now. So there's things we do that actually we know it works. We talk about the problem until it's a no problem. We never want to leave a conversation with something in our heart because we don't want any resentment to come. So if there's something, I feel, we'll sit down and talk about it. And we listen to each other. It's not about the other person, it's about how we feel.
I love that thing you said about analyzing the things that you're doing to understand why your relationship is great. Because I think quite often, you can, especially through those early years or early stages of a relationship, you can just kind of go through it without actually analyzing what the great bits are or analyzing how you've done things great. Especially as the relationship moves on further, like, it is great sometimes to reflect back on those early things that you were doing and what was actually really exciting and what you really did love about that relationship and bring some of that back into your relationship later on.
Such a good point, Nathan. I agree with you.
And the engineer in you examine the process.
Process. Everything is about process. That's the thing. Everything is a process.
And I think that's, in the beginning it was fun and it was exciting and it was getting to know you and, what were the behaviors and things that were happening at the time that made it joyful, and are you still doing them?
Yeah, exactly. Spend some time. And also what's very important is what we realize we're doing is, for example, when we're like, okay, we want to see each other more. This week, I've been busy, you've been busy. Instead of just saying we want to see each other more, we, again, because it's generalizing, we specify when, how, and what we're going to do. And we stick to it. Because in so many relationships, you hear, oh yeah, we put a plan together and we're going to go on date nights. Good. When's the first one? What are you going to do? And what do you want out of it?
Yeah, I've heard girlfriends, Nathan and I have been together over a decade, so we didn't really and when we got together, we didn't really do the dating thing. We went straight from housemates to deeply in love with each other as, partners, much more than that boyfriend-girlfriend stage. But when I hear girlfriends talk about dating and they say like, oh yeah, I think we're going to get together on XYZ. And they're like, why do you think? You're like, oh, because we haven't really totally defined what we're going to do or when we're going to meet up and I'm waiting to hear from him. Yeah. Like, what is that? Why?
Yeah It creates so much ambiguity, and we don't like ambiguity, and that's how you actually create anxiety. It's part of the way you do anxiety, because we have a low tolerance for ambiguity. We don't like not knowing. So then what do? You go in the future and you catastrophize. He might not call me. That's going to happen. Maybe you already found another girl. And in the meantime, in literally 5 minutes, you went in your head, in your little world, internal world, and you created a whole story. And you believe it.
Yeah.
I really like that you shared that. So you mentioned that there are a few things that you're doing that you know work, and one of them being saying thank you regularly. What else do you do to keep your relationship fueled up?
So the thank you is a big thing. The what we do, when we do, how we do it is a big thing. Instead of, oh, let's do something, what, when, how, and we lock it in. So we make each other accountable. When we disagree, we sit down and talk until there's nothing in our heart. And we say to each other, do you still have something in your heart? No. Promise? Yeah. Otherwise, I would tell you, okay, good. So then we move on. So we know we're not going to get back on this problem. Otherwise, we keep talking, even if it's for another hour, until there's nothing here. We don't move on.
Yeah. I love that thing that you said before about like that it can create resentment if there's something left in your heart. And yeah, I feel like resentment is this dirty little termite in a relationship that is small and it just eats away and eats away and eats away if it's not dealt with, and then it can get out of control, and then all of a sudden what was a really stable, solid relationship, it still might look like that on the outside, but the foundation is now weak.
Yeah. And it's almost like when you said that, I'm thinking, and it's almost like that's how you would create the always or never, by the little resentment. Because you just piled up little things. And
little
then
termites.
The little termites. You always, whoa, no, I don't. But because there's so many little termites inside that hasn't been dealt with.
Hey, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. What I would love to know is, what is your number one top tip for maintaining a relationship with yourself?
Do things you said you're going to do. Do things even if you don't want to do them. Don't rely on motivation to get started. Just do. The more you do, the confident you will be with yourself. That's my number one thing.
Yeah, that's a great practice, isn't it? And to catch yourself when you like, oh, I said I was going to do that and now I haven't done it and now I'm out of alignment with myself.
And then I don't trust myself and then I avoid and I start avoiding and I avoid life and I avoid conflict and I avoid everything and I create anxiety and I don't trust myself and blah, blah, So just do. You don't want to do it? Doesn't matter. Do it.
And I'm sure you can start with something simple too. It doesn't need to be, you don't need to start with the biggest thing on your list.
That's
you can start with the smallest thing, get
Step
some
one.
runs on the board and then.
Exactly. And then it unfolds.
Hey, Sandra, this chat has been amazing.
Thank you.
We've talked a lot about being the change and taking accountability for our own stuff and moving through it so that we can have those really beautiful relationships. And you are a living example of that. You went and did the work, broke a pattern, and as now in what sounds like a really beautiful relationship. But to say thank you, we also want to be the change that we want to see in the world. So to say thank you for joining us today, we've provided 7 days of training for young parents to get them skilled up in child nutrition, immunizations, contraception, and family planning in India. So this project is looked after Academy of Root Development. So thank you so much for allowing us to do that.
Beautiful. Thank you for doing that. It's beautiful. And thank you for your podcast. I think like so many people need help in their relationships, in them, like with themselves, with others, and it's beautiful what you guys are doing. Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you so much. So, Sandra, if people want to connect with you or learn a little bit more about what you do, how should they do that?
So they can get in touch with me by going on my website, newpath-hypnotherapy.com. I can do session in French and English. Just in case you wondered, I'm French. For all the people listening, for all the listeners of your podcast, I would like to offer the first introductory session for $195. My aim is for people to just do it, get started. If you're hesitating, if you don't know what to do, you've been going to psychologists for years and nothing changes, just try one session. See how it goes. You have nothing to lose. You will learn something. And I want to help as many people as possible because people need help the same way I did.
And where do you do your sessions, Sandra?
So I do my sessions from North Bondi or Bondi Junction and online.
So anywhere, if you're anywhere.
Anywhere.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks heaps for joining us. If you love what we're doing here and want more, subscribe to the Date Forever podcast to make sure you never miss an ep. Come and hang out with us and other awesome couples who are fueling up their relationships in the Thriving Couples Collective Facebook group, or check us out at fuelcollective.com.au. Until next time, keep on dating, because better relationships equal a better world.